This newfound strength will cost the user in the future though, but in the moment, it is a very good trade. Windu explains that the dark side is a torch that burns bright, but that quickly burns out. Sith apprentices use the brightness of the torch to unleash their fury on unsuspecting opponents. The light is all about balance and seeking the flourishment of life. Its power is a lot more subtle and profound, but the Sith only see power in the raw, physical sense, so that is what they train and prioritize. Since everything we've talked about so far was meant to bring out as much of the student's dark side as possible, that, combined with the next category, makes a terrifying apprentice and a terrifying enemy. Sith training is almost purely focused on combat. In the first years of a Sith apprentice's life, combat is the first truth that they learn. Sith only begin learning about the deeper mysteries of the dark side later down the road when they become the rank of Dark Lord. But as we've seen, apprentices must carry out their master's will. This often includes going to dangerous places or killing dangerous people. A Sith apprentice that can't effectively kill is useless. By contrast, many Jedi are focused on entirely different things in their study of the Force. At worst, their saber skill is something of an afterthought as they search answers through the light. Even Jedi Guardians are encouraged to keep a balance in how much time they're spent in combat training versus their other studies. Really, only Jedi Sentinels are encouraged to prioritize combat training above all else. This was different in the Old Republic, since the Sith were far more prevalent, and every Jedi needed to know how to fight them. In this era, the Jedi put a huge emphasis on lightsaber training, but this bred the adverse issue of causing Jedi to stray away from the light side. When a Jedi focuses too much on harming others and not on maintaining peace, they may become strong warriors, but they turn out to be bad Jedi. This very thing happened during the Ruusan campaign during the War of Light and Darkness. Jedi General Hoth and his troopers were swaying dangerously close to the dark side because of how much tenacity they had and were fighting with, going so far as to train Jedi Padawans in combat before throwing them on the front lines of a war. By the time of the Rule of Two, the Jedi were correcting their ways and were trying to be more in tune with the flow of the Force, focus on dissolving conflict non-violently. While still being skilled warriors, the Jedi were skilled largely against non-Force sensitives, so when a dark side wielder arrived, it was a very big deal, and the Jedi Sentinels were sent out to deal with the problem personally. But in the case of fighting a battle-hardened Sith apprentice, the Jedi would crumble nearly immediately. As we saw in the Acolyte, the Jedi are completely unprepared to fight against the aggression of a Sith Lord, which leads us to our next point. Sith fight with viciousness. This is something the Jedi are not prepared for. The Jedi are familiar with aggressive forms like Jem-So and Ataru, but being aggressive is different than being vicious. Jedi who use these forms exercise restraint and know when to push and when to pull back on their enemy. Sith, though, never do this. They're bloodthirsty fighters that are ready to gut whoever steps in their path. Kymir, despite being extremely young, was able to kill an entire team of Jedi. None of them were familiar enough with his lightsaber form to even properly fight against it. And by context clues, we can surmise that Kymir uses Juyo, which is Form 7, the form that is most closely associated with the dark side, due to how wild and unpredictable it is. Form 7 is known for eviscerating opponents and ripping through even the best defenses. Yord was terrified of him, stating that he didn't follow the rules of combat, and that there was no rhyme or reason to his movements. These words just go to show how out of touch the Jedi of the Rule of Two era truly were when facing a true dark side adept. They believe Sith will follow the rules of engagement. They think that all lightsaber duels should be the same, and they don't expect the Sith to fight like a wild animal. And that's what brings us to our final point. The Sith will use anything and everything to their advantage. While not seen very often with apprentices, we do see Kymir utilizing the dirty trick of wearing Cortosis armor, which is a brittle metal that shorts out lightsabers whenever they strike it. Sith are known to do this sort of thing all the time. They aren't afraid to use other things to their advantage during fights. Historically, this meant using magic objects such as amulets, or even enchanted pieces of armor to give them the slightest edge. In Kymir's case, he went into a fight with a team of Jedi, wearing something that would certainly help him out when fighting with multiple lightsabers. Sith apprentices may be savage when they fight, but they are also very intelligent. They plan, they prepare, they know their enemy going into a duel. They are ready to do what it takes to win. Darth Maul was willing to throw his pride aside as a warrior and use a dirty trick against Qui-Gon Jinn, smacking his chin with the hilt of his lightsaber in order to pull off the stab. This is not something a warrior with honor would ever do, and although Darth Maul would later say that he regretted doing this, it was more so a sign of his own disappointment at his skill rather than pulling off a dirty move. In summary, Sith apprentices are able to kill Jedi Masters because they are selected from amongst the strongest Force sensitives in the galaxy. They are put through inhuman training conditions to stoke the fires of the darkness within them. That power is already potent, as it gives larger bursts of power, all of which is honed through nothing but the purest of combat training. And they do not obey the rules of combat at all. They will fight like